Welcome back. Well, today we're talking about the governing body. Well, not all the current governing body members. Now, if we go to the thumbnail here, we can take a look at it. Who do we have on the thumbnail? So you notice there we have Kenneth Cook, Samuel Hurd, Jackson, Lett, Loesch, Tony Morris, the guy that they fired. They're going after him. He's summoned in here, and Splain, and then Jackson. So that's all the guys, the 8 that were in 1988. So we're going to take a look at how the governing body. Now, this isn't the first time that we've talked about the governing body being sued directly. This is other stuff. This is happening, folks. The governing body is getting sued. And let's take a look at some of the court papers here. Now, first of all, we'd like to thank WATCHTOWER, Jehovah's Witness, another case of CSA at WATCHTOWER.
How to find this information.
Headquarters. So thanks to them for getting this information out. So there's 2 cases we're looking at. This is in New York, Kings County Supreme Court. And the first one here is D.L. Doe. So that's the first one. Now, the other one that we're looking at is the same thing. This is Deborah Hines. We're going to read some of that one. It's quite interesting what happened there. But let's skim through this. Now, I want to mention that when you look at this stuff, and I'm going to pin it all, it shows everything that's happening on this case. So I'm just looking at the summons and the complaint. That's what we're going to pull up. Now you can go on, and there's an order to show cause, a couple of other things, affidavits. Now, if we go to the other case, this is the first one, D.L. Doe. Now the other one, Hines, Deborah Hines. This case, I'm going to read some of the complaint. We're also going to take a look. This is filed by Zelkin, and that's the lawyer. I went and looked at that. They're a law firm. You might, if you guys are, anybody out there is dealing with this, these guys, right on their website, they have a Jehovah's Witness abuse line. And Jehovah's Witness sexual abuse lawyer, helping victims. Proven success. Now, here's what I thought was interesting. Proven success, examples of our recent results, and I'm sure a lot of this is from JW Oregon. It's all, you see, a lot of this stuff, once it gets handled in court, and if WATCHTOWER does a payout, they bend over and they don't want to go to court because then it's public. So they do a payout, and then all these non-disclosure agreements are signed, and we never get to hear about it. So if you could imagine some of this being the WATCHTOWER. Here's an example of some of their recent results, and this is on their Jehovah's Witness page. 660 million global settlement in a multi-victim case against a religious institution. 198 million settlement in a multi-victim case against a religious institution. 100 million global settlement for multiple clergy sexual abuse survivors. 10.5 million settlement in a multi-victim case against a religious group home. And an 8 million settlement in a multi-victim case against a religious leader and institution. So they sued the leader. And then it goes on to say, discuss your potential case with the Jehovah's Witness sexual abuse attorney from the Zulkin law firm. We offer free and confidential consultations and represent survivors nationwide. And they go on their website to talk about what are Jehovah's Witnesses, rather than who are Jehovah's Witnesses, what are Jehovah's Witnesses. I kind of like that, as it's a thing, it's an it, like, you're a Jehovah's Witness? Okay, what are they? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are a denomination. So they go on to talk about all the Jehovah's Witness stuff. And then they talk about the Jehovah's Witness child sex abuse. They have a whole section there. Family abuse, secrecy and isolation, cover-ups, perpetrators' memberships in some instances. And this is all Jehovah's Witness stuff. The hidden truth behind Jehovah's Witness sexual abuse cases and the failures of their internal policies. Now contact our Jehovah's Witness sexual abuse attorney today. Now I don't get paid from these guys, but I thought, wow, what a thing. I just found this because I Google searched it. That's who these guys are using, is Zulkin on their case. So we're going to read some of this. Now look at all the work they did so far in this case. I'm just going to scroll down. Now again, we're only going to look a little bit at the complaint up there. And there's the order of administrative, all of this stuff, order amended, exhibits, stipulation service, stipulation time to answer, notice of motion, memorandum of law and support. Now I'm just going to scroll forward. It's still going exhibits, more stipulations, and we're at number 29. And this is the kind of work these guys are doing. It looks to me like they're giving Watchtower no way out. They're covering all their bases, dotting all their I's, crossing all their T's on this law firm, this Zulkin law firm. So I thought that was interesting. Let's move forward. We're going to look a little bit at this one here. This is the first one. With they're suing the governing body. There's a summons, so they'd get summons, the governing body, and it says right here, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York, and the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, and then there's a John and a Jane Doe's, 1 to 75. Okay, so they talk about their preliminary statement, the sexual abuse of minors, and they go through all of that, the jurisdiction, venue. Now the background, they get into it. The plaintiff, the girl that was abused, was born in 1980, resident of the state of Montana, and the defendant is the Watchtower. And then it goes on to talk about the Watchtower this, Watchtower that. Then they said the defendant, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, hereafter called the governing body. And then it comes down, defendant, governing body. And then in section 19 here, it names them all. That's how I got all the pictures. I knew who to put on the thumbnail. And I put them in order. Kenneth E. Cook was the first guy. I'll see if I could pull it up on the screen here. Okay, so I have them all lined up, all their mug shots. From right to, let me just get my cursor there on the screen, so see if you guys can see that, all the way across over here. This guy here, that's Kenneth E. Cook Jr. And then we have Samuel Frederick Hurd. And then over here we have Jeffrey William Jackson. Remember, he's the one that testified in the Australian ARC, the commission. And then here, a lot of the our favorite, with all the facial expressions that don't match what he's talking about. So we know there's something going on there that might not be right. That is Mark Stephen Lett, right there. Okay. And then right beside him is Jarrett Loesch. And the next guy, here's the guy that got fired out of the Watchtower. He got canned, but he's in a private little house, condo. Everyone knows where he's at. His name is Anthony Morris III. Anthony Morris, Tony Morris they called him. And then the next guy over here is Sanderson. He's the guy that wore the Norway tie. He was trying to appease Norway. And then we have over here David Splain. So that's all here. That they got them all. And just to make sure that the court was clear on it, then they took each of their names to say, yeah, this guy was a coordinator as of October 1st, the date of that this all happened. And then they talk about the current coordinator, David Splain. He was a coordinator at the time. Then they talk about Cook. He was a coordinator. They list them all here, like they're so thorough in this statement. These guys are all listed. These guys are getting served. They're getting sued. They will be summoned to court. This is going to be an interesting court case if we could be a fly on the wall. So it goes on to talk about it. We're not going to get into a lot of details here with this particular case. But what I want to do is go to the very end, and there's 35 pages to get this court thing rolling. That's how they did. And they really laid it out. In all of the details there, they talked about all the positions of everyone in the congregations, how everything works. Like it's nothing new for us. But then they had these causes of action. And I wanted to point that out. The first cause of action was right here. It was a violation of the Gender Motivated Violence Act. And this is child welfare that's actually doing a lot of this. Now, the second cause of action was negligent supervision against all defendants. And the third cause of action was negligent hiring and retention against all the defendants. The fourth cause of action was negligent failure to warn, train, or educate relating to sexual abuse. So there's a responsibility that all companies have in relation to sexual abuse. Training. And fifth cause of action is intentional infliction of emotional distress. And that's because Watchtower was notified, but they did nothing about it but cover it up. And the sixth cause of action was sexual abuse and battery. So there was repeated instances if you were to read that whole case. So then as a result, they're suing the Watchtower. And here's what I want to point out. They're suing them for punitive and exemplary damages. Now I wanted to know what that was, so I went over here. And punitive damages, you guys can all see that, are also known as exemplary damages, are awarded in civil cases to punish a defender for, now this word got me, egregious. Now I don't know if that's how I said it. Egregious. Egregious. It's egregious. So it's outstandingly bad and shocking. That's what that means. Egregious. Or malicious conduct. And to deter similar behavior in the future, going beyond compensating the injured party. So this is huge. These guys are going for everything because they want to stop this within the Jehovah's Witness religion, the hiding of it all. And this is how it all comes out in court, folks. These are some of the terms they use. The purpose of this punitive damages, exemplary damages, is the primary goal of punitive damages is not to compensate the plaintiff, but to punish the defendant. Punish the defendant and deter others from engaging in similar unlawful or harmful actions. So the governing body down there, they're going to, in this court case, this is what this is about, to punish them. Could it be jail time? It could be. It depends on how this all runs out. Now, this would run out. This is the Supreme Court. So let's see what happens. I'm going to go over to this document. This is the Deborah Hines document versus Watchtower. And again, we'll just take a quick look at it. Now, same thing here. At the very end, the damages, they want all that covered, of course. But they're suing the Watchtower for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh causes of action. in sums that exceed the jurisdictional limits of all lower courts. So they're asking for some big bucks, including compensatory punitive damages together with interest cost disbursements. So again, they're asking for punitive damages right there. We just read punitive damages. That means if someone deserves jail time, they're going to get jail time. They're going to be punished for the crime. So that's what they're asking for here. Let's just take a look at what this one was about. Okay, so we're just going to touch on a little bit of this. We're on page 18 of a 34-page summons, and we're at the section 158, background and facts relating to the plaintiff. So the plaintiff was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. She was primarily attending meetings in Arizona, and she became a pioneer in 1987, 1988. Now, the plaintiff's stepfather, William Briggs, in bracket Briggs, was employed by Watchtower and the governing body to produce videos at Bethel. And that's what I thought was interesting. So here they are in Arizona, but he was obviously talented in making videos. Now, due to his position, the plaintiff and her family split their time between Arizona and New York. And the plaintiff and her family would spend 3 months in New York, where they lived at Bethel, then return back to Arizona for 1 month, and then they'd go back to New York for 3 months, and so on and so forth, because they were special. They had a special case, and they were all looked after by Watchtower. Now, it goes on to say, Watchtower and governing body assigned Elder Ted Adams as Briggs' overseer while at Bethel. So Ted Adams was the connection to this Briggs, the victim's family, the stepfather. And then from approximately 82 to 88, when the plaintiff was approximately 10 to 16 years old, the plaintiff suffered horrific sexual abuse by Briggs. So Briggs is the stepfather of the victim, the plaintiff, and she suffered horrific sexual abuse by him. So the sexual abuse occurred 3 to 5 times per week, included but was not limited to sodomy, rape, forced oral copulation, and Briggs urinating in the plaintiff's mouth. This is the court papers, folks. This is not me throwing stuff out there. So we carry on. While at Bethel, the plaintiff was assigned to work various jobs. The victim, the girl, would work various jobs, including, and she was 10 to 16 years old, including assisting with video production, working in the laundry facility, and as an elevator operator. And while at Bethel, the plaintiff was assigned by the Watchtower and the governing body to live in the same room as her mother and Briggs, her stepfather. Now, what happened next, at all times relevant, the plaintiff's mother, she suffered from alcoholism. This is right in the court papers, folks. And this isn't the first time I've heard this, that there's a lot of alcoholism in Bethel. I know, and I said this in other videos, in the 7 congregations I've been in, a lot of alcoholism. All the elders would drink a bottle of wine every night. And, sometimes it doesn't stop at that. So, it goes on to say the mother she suffered from alcoholism. So while the plaintiff's family was living at Bethel, the plaintiff's mother would frequently consume alcohol to the point of incapacitation. Can you believe that? So she'd knock herself out. And once she was incapacitated, Briggs, the stepfather, would sexually abuse the girl, the plaintiff, in their room at Bethel. Now, in approximately 1986, the plaintiff reported her sexual abuse to Michael Filla, an elder who worked at Bethel. Mr. Filla did nothing in the response. So Briggs' sexual abuse of Hines continued at Bethel after Hines reported to Mr. Filla. A couple of weeks after reporting to Mr. Filla, the plaintiff reported her abuse to Ted Adams. He was the guy that was put in charge, remember? An elder at Bethel, the overseer of all the video projects. He was overseeing her stepfather, Briggs. And the elder who watched her and the governing body assigned to oversee them. So he was at Bethel. So Mr. Adams, he told the plaintiff that she would not talk about her abuse with anyone. So that's what he told her. Don't talk to anyone about this. So Mr. Adams was removed as an overseer shortly thereafter. So it sounds like Watchtower removed him. Now, Briggs, the stepfather, the Briggs sexual abuse of Hines continued at Bethel after she reported this to Adams. And then Watchtower just removed Adams. Now, it goes on to say, plaintiff then reported her abuse to Mr. Underwood, an elder at Bethel, and the overseer of all the international construction at Bethel. Now, Mr. Underwood did nothing in response. He did nothing. So Briggs' sexual abuse of Hines continued at Bethel after Hines reported to Mr. Underwood. So you see, this Briggs guy, this video guy, he knew some really good video stuff. He must have been so valuable to the Watchtower that they were willing to keep covering this up. Now, it goes on to say that the plaintiff, the young girl, then reported to Jack Barr, an elder and a member of the governing body at the time. And Mr. Barr told the plaintiff that he would relay her report to the entire governing body. That's what he said. So Briggs' sexual abuse of Hines continued at Bethel after she reported it to Mr. Barr. Nothing happened. So about 1 week after her report to Barr, Mr. Barr informed the plaintiff that the governing body had taken care of it. So now the whole governing body's involved. They'd taken care of it. That she would feel privileged for having the experience that she had. What? She'd feel privileged for having the sexual abuse she had? That Briggs was too important to be disciplined because of his role in creating videos at Bethel. That they couldn't do anything about her abuse because Briggs had only admitted to digitally, penetrating her and not raping her. And that if she continued to talk about her abuse, she would be stripped of her privileges as a pioneer. Wow. This is what the governing body said. It's no wonder that their mugshots are at the bottom of this screen, and I'm leaving them there. Now, that's something. Now, let's continue. Following her report to Mr. Barr, the plaintiff was removed from her mother and stepfather's room at Bethel. She was told that Briggs would not be told why the plaintiff was being removed from his room. She was told that her stepfather wouldn't be told why she was removed. Now, it goes on to say, upon information and belief, Briggs was told that the plaintiff was removed from his room due to her accusations that he was sexually abusing her. Briggs' sexual abuse of the plaintiff continued when they returned to Arizona. Can you believe this, folks? Nothing was reported to the police all of this time, all covered up, because this guy was so important in making videos for Bethel. This is all coming out. It's already out in public. I'm talking about it. This is a public document, folks. A court document exposing the Watchtower. Now it says, based on information and belief while in Arizona, Briggs escalated his behavior, including the physically abusing of Hines, in retaliation for the plaintiff's aforementioned report. So he physically abused her for reporting this to elders at Bethel. And in around 1987, the plaintiff reported her ongoing sexual abuse. She reported it to Loesch. So obviously this family knew the governing body quite closely. So she reported it to Garrett Loesch, and he is right here in the picture. You see where my cursor is, right above his head there? So, wow. Now, following the plaintiff's report to Loesch, Briggs continued to sexually abuse the plaintiff at their home in Arizona. And upon information and belief, Briggs was never disciplined by the Watchtower or the governing body for admitting to sexually abusing the plaintiff. And the plaintiff ignored Watchtower and the governing body's directive to keep quiet about her abuse and continued to report her abuse to several other Jehovah's Witness members, including several more elders. And as a result, the Watchtower and the governing body retaliated against the plaintiff by removing her privileges as a pioneer in 1991. So she got disciplined for talking about all this cover-up abuse, folks. And on the day that the plaintiff's privileges were removed, she was publicly reproved. That's serious. So they reproved her publicly. They humiliated her. And Briggs was elevated to the position of an elder. Her stepdad, the pedophile, was elevated to an elder. That's why this organization needs to be exposed. This is part of the exposing, folks. They're suing for punitive damages, exemplary damages, jail time. If I was sitting on a jury and this all came out in court, because this is the summons, folks. This is what is being served. All those governing bodies are served with this. They got to go to court. We'll see what happens in this. Now, Briggs acts committed against Hines while she was a child are sexual offenses as defined by New York penal law. So then they get into all the they're going to sue for negligent supervision. They're suing for negligent retention. That's a second cause of action. And for the third cause of action, negligent failure to train relating to child abuse. Same as the last court case. And as for the fourth cause of action, negligent undertaking. And as for the fifth cause of action, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And as for the sixth cause of action, negligent failure to provide a safe and secure environment. And as for the seventh cause of action, sexual abuse and battery. And as for the eighth cause of action, negligence. You see, from my knowledge, Briggs has not went to jail, hasn't been tried. This guy's gotten away with this. Watchtower's covered this up. Watchtower has been hiding this case from back then to today. So it's no wonder why we have such a corrupt organization, folks. It's no wonder. It's no wonder. This has all come out now. These guys are exposed. They're gangrene. This is awful. Well, that brings an end to the program. Again, I want to give a big call out to Zelkin, the Zelkin law firm, for pumping this out. And you guys can phone them, 1-800-477-2989. Anybody out there? It's free. They have a hotline for Jehovah's Witnesses. So it looks like help is on the way. And we see the mug shots at the bottom. They're all labeled in both court cases. So, like I've always said, the truth always comes out. You know, we think of Norway, what just happened. That's just the appeals court. It's not the Supreme Court yet. You know, the truth hasn't come out. They had a lot of rope to hang themselves in court in Norway, in the appeals court, by getting up and lying in court, keeping quiet, not telling the truth. So fortunately, there are law firms that have this all figured out. They have this organization figured out. And hopefully soon, these governing body members will be held accountable for their injustices. And if I was on a jury, I would be voting for jail time, long jail time, for all 8 members of the governing body for covering up these sexual abuses. And this should be made so public, so public. These are the leaders. These are the leaders of the religious organization. This is the Pope of Jehovah's Witnesses, these 8 men. These 8 men should be held accountable. Well, folks, that brings an end to the program. There's the 8 men again. They will be held accountable. If you have any other stories that you'd like us to run, email them to us. My name is Vern. It's mail@xjw.tv. We'd love to hear your story, and I don't say we will run it, but we might run it. Every story has to be applicable to our audience. So, and I told some pretty weird stories when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses. It seems like this stuff is just coming out. And this was the icing that took the cake. The story today about what went on. The mom's an alcoholic. The stepdad's abusing this girl. She went to elder after elder, to Bethel, to the governing body themselves. And the abuse carried on, and they made the abuser an elder, and they disqualified the girl as a pioneer and punished her. And then announced her as being under public reproof. So when you get announced for that, everyone stays away. So it's a shunning. There's an inside shunning that goes on. A lot of parents don't allow their kids to associate with that person. They're publicly reproved. It's humiliating. We've been through it all. So folks, I know this is tough to take in, but keep living your life with love. Love eliminates this, and I thank the victims for taking this forth, for suing the Watchtower for punitive and exemplary damages, which would mean jail time. Well, folks, that brings an end. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.